Good morning, everyone. It's Lee Henson, president and founder of Agiledad, and it's time for today's episode of the Daily Standup. So, without any further ado, let's get started. It's Friday. We made it through another week. Things are awesome. Things are just absolutely amazing. And of course, since it's Friday, it's time for our not so agile daily stand-up. So, every Friday, we try to provide you with something that's inspirational and uplifting. And this is a story that was recently shared with me that warmed my heart. And I hope you enjoy it. It's one that touched me in a way that I haven't been touched in a little while. So, a young lady who lived all of her life blind, she was born blind, she was born without sight. Um, she, her entire life, she was ridiculed, picked on, had problems with peers, as you can imagine, someone with that type of disability might have early on because people just didn't understand that she was different until she surrounded herself with a community of other people who were blind and she had an opportunity to meet other people and to experience the world in a way that a blind person would see the world. Now, the one thing that didn't change though was that she always felt down upon herself until she met Mark. Now, Mark was the most loving, kind, generous man. And he would often take her places and do things with her and remind her of how beautiful she was. And he would always take the time to describe every vivid detail to her. He would take the time to make sure that she understood how colors blended and how she could appreciate different things and how he just always went out of his way to make sure he went the extra mile so that he could always give her the vision that she sought after so that she could understand exactly what was happening, so that she can enjoy all the same things that he enjoyed, so that she could live a full life, and most importantly, so that he could share his love for her. Now, as time progressed, he really wanted to further his relationship with her, and he was contemplating marriage. And when he brought up the topic of advancing their relationship, didn't necessarily bring up marriage, but just talk about how much he cared about her. She said, she says, if I could see the world the way that you see the world, she says, I could imagine that I would marry you in a moment because you are just such a beautiful person. And this made him filled with joy. So she received a phone call, and the phone call was saying that there had been a pair of eyes that were donated, and there was this revolutionary surgery that they wanted to try to get her to see. Now, that sounds kind of far fetched, but I'm going with it for the sake of the story. So she had the surgery; it was successful, and now, lo and behold, they took the bandages off her eyes, and she could see everything. And the world was just so beautiful, and it was stunning. And the number one thing that she said she wanted to see was her boyfriend. And of course, the doctors and nurses, they agreed and they brought her boyfriend in. And he says, what do you think? Huh? He says, now that you can see the world, he says, I have to ask. And he dropped to a knee and he said, will you marry me? And at that moment, she looked at him and realized that he was blind. And she said, how could you do this to me? She says, this whole time, she says, you've been describing all these things to me. You've been drawing this pretty picture of the world. She goes, you couldn't see at all. You were blind. No, I'm not going to marry you. You've lied to me all these years. She goes, no. She says, I am not going to marry you. And she was so upset and totally stormed, just got him out of the room and went into a mode of just disbelief. Why would he mislead her and judge her this way? Well, shortly after she refused to marry him, she received a handwritten note that he had left there, after this whole thing went down. And in the handwritten note, she realized it was from him and she opened it up. And the note said, I truly understand. Please just take care of my eyes. Sometimes when our circumstances change, so does our mind. And people may not be able to see things the way they were before. They might not be able to appreciate the things they do see. There are many things to take away um, from our ability to see clearly. whether it's the media, whether it's social injustice or racial injustice, or whether it's things that are happening in our communities. And I think it's important for us to take this story to heart, especially with all the things that happened this past week. No matter which side of the political spectrum you're on, what you have to understand is that prejudice for any reason needs to stop, and that our eyes need to be opened. And once our eyes are opened, we need to understand how to love more. And a wise scholar once said, the more you know, the more you're going to be held accountable for. And the more you know, the more you're going to be expected to help, the more you're going to be expected to do. And I believe that's true. And the thing that I struggle the most with in today's political climate and in today's social climate is that people just don't understand. They often look at what they see on the surface and make judgment or pass judgment. They come in with cognitive bias or preconceived notions, and they don't take the time to really get to know another person. And I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't require us to carve out our own eyes to give others the ability to see what we see through our eyes. But it is important for us to give others a chance, or for us even to consider how that person sees through their eyes. And I think that the world should never be a place where we have to live in fear, where we have to live in a way that we're treated differently. I just feel like it's so important for us to uplift each other and to uplift ourselves, but most importantly, to come at life in a spirit with a spirit of understanding and with a spirit of love and with a spirit of compassion and with a spirit of trying to make the world a better place. And the one commitment that I'm going to make to all of you is that I already tried pretty hard, but I'm going to try even harder to make sure that if there's ever someone who sees things differently than I do, that I at least try to see things through their eyes without them having to gouge their own eyes out to let me see that picture. So I hope that you learned a lot today. I hope this was uplifting. It's a little bit of a sad story, but at the same time, the message is priceless. So tune in next week. We got lots of great things coming next week. We got some exciting stand-ups. So I hope you'll join us on Monday. And as always, we encourage you to tell your friends to subscribe if they're not already subscribed. Listen to the Daily Stand-Up. It's 10 minutes or less a day, and it gets you a long way. So as always, we tell you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.